Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine the best movie for any given year. I am your host, Greg, and this year we are doing 1973. Before we start the show, know this. This is a game show, everybody. All right, so I'm going to be giving points for correct answers, funny comments, or things that generally make me feel good about me. Greg. The movie we are doing tonight is 1973's Serpico. And for that, I had to bring in the two dirtiest, filthiest cops I know. First off, winner of last week's show, probably Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, Greg. I do want to say that, and this is not a big deal to all the listeners out there in Listenerland, but you did leave this envelope in my locker.
Yes.
And I did not open it, did not look in it. Just going to be on the show, and I want to slide that envelope back to you.
Okay, all right.
I'll take it.
Rejecting my big envelope of glitter right away. I'm not sure that I like that. A huge fan of glitter, I'm seeing written on this card here in glitter glue, is our challenger today, Mike. Mike, how much do you love glitter?
I love glitter so much. I love that once you get one, it'll spread. You can't get rid of it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it just stays
I like
on
to breathe
there.
it in.
Also, envelopes of anthrax, same thing. Mike, based on how you're dressed right now, did you think dirty cop meant dress as a cop and cover yourself in mud and shit?
Yeah, because I've heard that cops are pigs, so I've tried to do both at once.
You heard. Like
I
through
heard
the
on
grapevine?
streets.
I have heard,
I heard on the main
officer,
streets.
could you clear something up for me? I have heard that cops are pigs. Is that true? I don't know.
They don't like when you ask them that.
When we talk about some 1973 movies, like a lot of them have names I've never even heard before we started doing this season, let alone like having actually seen them. But Serpico feels like a movie that's bigger than 1973. Mike, do you have any, besides like having heard about Serpico, do you have any history with the movie itself?
Not the movie itself, but the closest is the outfits for some reason. Not all of them, because there's so many. But some of them have been burned into my brain. And then mostly it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode from the first few seasons where Charlie just keeps yelling he's going Serpico on everybody's ass.
Yeah, my only connection was the parts of Rushmore that are Serpico. Ryan, as our resident film guy, do you have a history with Serpico?
I do, Greg.
Okay, would you share it with us, Ryan?
I'd fucking love to. Season ago or so, we were going to do an Al Pacino career retrospective.
This is true. 2002 season. It was for the movie Insomnia, I believe.
For the movie Insomnia. And I was like, you know what? As the movie guy, I should probably watch some more Al Pacino movies that I haven't seen.
So you're ready.
I have never seen Serpico. I should watch that. And I did it, and I was ready to talk about it in the Al Pacino career retrospective.
Yes.
Our host, I don't remember who that was. Some fucking dipshit schmuck.
Some chud.
Some guy dressed like a cop covered in shit and mud.
You said that that's what we were going to do, but then decided to pull the rug out from under us, and we did some fucking improv skit.
A hilarious gag that still resonates to this day.
What's the perfect 1-2 punch of lying to your friends, then saying now we're going to do improv?
It's the only way to get your friends to do improv.
The good news is, Ryan, as I give Mike another point for the chutzpah, the good news is we are going to have a chance later in this show,
I swear to fucking God,
to
Greg.
do the Al Pacino retrospective. And I swear by my duties as a host that nothing will preempt that. Ryan actually asked me, he said, I'm going to do a little work to prepare for this, Greg. Can you promise me this is going to be a segment on the show? And I said, host's honor, yes. Even though the amount it would be funny to not do this is unprecedented in the history of the show.
The studio audience is so excited right now because they will see the first live. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Very timely response from our otherwise silent audience.
If we don't do the Al Pacino career retrospective tonight, they're going to see the first actual live happening of somebody taking two heads and bonking them together. And then you guys fall on the ground and see stars.
Is there any chance that if we don't do it, you will reprise the other Lumet Pacino movie that we have done, Dog Day, and just start screaming, Attica!
Probably.
Attica! Attica! Well, that gets us ready to talk about Serpico. I think the only thing left to do is take a short break and then talk about Serpico. Serpico asks the question, what if it turned out that cops weren't always the good guys? Now, try to stay with me because this is probably going to blow your mind a little bit. But the cops in Serpico aren't concerned with making the world a better place or with protecting the little guy, but instead focus on draining money from everyone they come in contact with and sending that money right into their own pockets. Hard to believe, but it's right in the film, folks. I assume this movie is a fiction film? I am being told the movie is not a fiction film. Gentlemen, how do we think revealing the corruption of the police force played to 1973 audiences, as opposed to how it plays today? Does this shocking revelation make it stand out more then than now? And how do we feel about Lumet's ACAB delivery system, Ryan?
I think it has to be crazier than, like, jaw-droppingly crazy. And for us, especially if you're of our ilk, where the three of us and the people that we hang out with in our bubble don't have a lot of those black American flags with the blue lines in the middle.
Uh-huh.
Not a ton of those flying off of our pickup trucks.
I have the pink line, which is for people who serve ice cream.
Oh.
Yeah.
With
Ice cream lives matter.
And then back then, I think that it was shocking, but also in a weird way, comfort food. And it's because that there was Serpico. Instead of just being footage of corrupt policemen doing corrupt things, like we were getting with those clowns on Capitol Hill taking down democracy at the time, we actually had a guy who had an inordinate superhero level of integrity that I think that the movie does an okay job with dealing with and building up. But I think that that's sort of the hero that we really wanted to see, was not somebody who went around punching people or shooting people, but just saying, like, I am the least corruptible person in a world where I guess everyone is, including the eerie kid from The Sting. Did you see that?
The eerie. Oh yeah. He's like one of, like, the lead henchmen of, like, the corrupt cops. Mike, do you think that it plays differently now than it did in 1973?
I think it's so perfect that we're doing this 50 years later, because I think 73 it hit and people are like, oh, crazy, it's happened, but we ever one good hero. And now, one, it's hard to believe that there was even one good one. And we're used to it. I think in the 80s and 90s and early aughts, we've been like, I don't know, what's this? There maybe should be a couple more good cops who hang out with Serpico. That I think we're finally ready again to have those scales fall off our eyes and be like, no, most of the police force fucking sucks, man. It is so rare to have one good person.
Pauline Kael famously wrote that about this movie that, like, there wasn't one other guy, and there really isn't. Like, there is
one other guy,
His
right? There's that
Stony
guy
friend.
that he gets high with.
Yeah, the guy, Tony Roberts, not Tony Robbins.
No, Tony Robbins. He later would go on stage and be like, be like me.
From all the Woody Allen movies.
You could have teeth this big.
But, I mean, everybody's like, wow, Serpico, I really think that you're great, and just take the money. Just fucking take. Why aren't you taking the money? God damn it.
Early on, and probably like it's in the first 45 minutes, because if you rewatch it, you're like, wow, there's a lot of preamble in this movie before you start Serpicoing everywhere. One of the cops says, who can trust a cop who don't take money unironically and means it insincerely? And it's like, wow, it is. The corruption is so woven into the DNA of the entire 5 boroughs police force that he is the anomaly that makes them. It's not they're like, oh, we're bad, so we have to look in the mirror. It's like, fuck this guy. He is actually a creep and a rat.
Well, there's people that'll, like, that hear about this and they'll, like, take their hat off and they'll stop and they'll, like, scratch their head and they'll be like, hold on, wait, you want what? Like, it's It's like the people in the beginning of Air Bud say, like, watching a dog play basketball. Like, that's how crazy it is.
Because I found watching this movie that it at once starts from an extremely naive place. It is the clean-shaven Pacino at the beginning of the movie. But it breaks the audience in very slowly to, like, okay, we're going to show you some police corruption here. It starts with cream chicken, but then it goes all the way to envelopes full of money. But then at the same time, it really does show that, like, there is no cop besides Serpico and his friend that are not touched by this. Like the commissioner is, the captain is, every single
goes
other
all the way to
guy.
the top.
It goes all the way to the top and then back around. And so I thought that was an interesting mix of like, in a way, it starts off in a much more innocent place than a current movie would about police corruption, because it has to break the audience into the idea that it might happen, and then once it does, it's just like, yeah, okay, but it's everybody,
right? And I do think that that's a little bit of the Lumet of it all, And although Dog Day doesn't do this, Dog Day is almost a real-time movie. You know,
they're more bumbling in Dog Day. In Dog Day, it's like they have no plan for any situation.
But this movie, I think, had I read it had like 1,000 sets or 1,000 different locations in the script, which is 200 times more than you need.
That's a lot of location.
And
every shot should be in a different place.
There's a point where like Al Pacino's like, oh, that's good information. And then he leaves, and then he goes and makes a phone call in a different place. He's like, okay, I'll meet you there. And then goes like, it's a little unnecessary.
It has to be real how it really happened, Ryan.
But I think what he's trying to do is make this epic scope, this Godfather-esque or like Lawrence of Arabia-esque. This is my epic tale. Instead of just saying, here's a year in the life of Serpico, I want him to be larger than life with that David Lean-esque, grand scope.
He bounces, I think, by the end to almost every borough except Staten Island, which doesn't really count. He works
made
everywhere,
of trash,
and it just follows. I don't know, and we'll talk about Lumet later, but like I don't know if I've seen a movie capture however many years this movie captures as well as this does, as seamlessly
12,
as it
13.
does. And it's confusing in a good way. Thank God we have that dog and that beard, because those are the only markers that time is passing.
Mike.
Do you guys, with the ACAB delivery system of Lumet, I think that he's a funnier actor, or funnier director, rather. He's better at comedy than some of his, people making movies at the time, like Coppola, let's say. But do you think that the ACAB delivery system here is funnier? Like, does it get to the point where it's so over the top that it is kind of a joke, or is that a failure of the movie?
I think there are things that definitely are played for humor. Mm-hmm. For like his costume changes. Honestly,
so
it reminds me of.
funny.
Do you remember, Ryan, in the book Confederacy of Dunces? There's a cop who's always like undercover, and he's like dressed as a pirate sometimes, dressed as a sailor other times. Like there are establishing shots where Serpico walks in, and his clothing is so wild, and for a second you can't even tell if it's like that's just the way Serpico's dressed today, or this is another one of his like crazy disguises.
I don't know if dressing like a Hasidic Jew is where he's working that day, or if that's what's hip in New York in the party scene right now.
Because it's so early on, it's shown that he has the pulse. He tells one of his new captains, he's like, undercover cops, you can tell who they are. And the guy, like, he's one of the leaders who listens. He's like, you know what? And first you think he's fucking with him because he's so agreeable.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to
give you your own car.
However you want. Drive your own car. Like, do whatever needs to be done. And he's just like, you can tell Serpico's like, is he fucking with me right now? Because I'm going to dress like a rabbi so fast.
I just bought this costume right here. But yeah, I for sure at the end of that, is that something you like, Serpico? And Serpico's like, yeah. Of course I'm not going to do that, you fucking idiot. Get out of here.
One thing that's interesting, though, is that's still a problem cops have. Mm-hmm. Like, whenever they put cops at a protest, they're always like guys with military haircuts, wearing black shoes with white socks.
The tightest jeans with the biggest gun bulges all up and down the leg.
Well, another thing that I think is a little naive about this movie is, and I want to get your feelings on it, is there kind of, by the end of this movie, a feeling of like, wow, good thing this happened, because we were able to really clear out the police force of all these bad apples, and now we're just back to normal cop stuff.
For starting, because we start towards the end, right? We start very Fight Clubby end. Somebody's bloody from the face.
Yeah, he is shot in the frickin' face.
And all you hear is other cops being like, oh, Serpico got shot? I bet it was one of us who did it. And so by the end, for it to end on such a weird high note, I was like, is there a post-credit scene? Like, that now
the cops are like, but we're really still gonna fuck around.
Yeah, we're gonna be part of the January 6th riots. It was so shocking to end where it ended, and the most like biopic it felt.
It's got that problem of, one, you have to have a movie structure, right? And I don't think that this movie does,
because it's a life, right? So
and
instead, it's just, and it's a life that's like only like 35 years in the making.
This movie is not a hangout movie, but it is. It's like it is a character piece that has some things that happen sometimes, and you just have to prepare yourself for that. But the other thing, too, is that because of Serpico, a lot of things did happen. Like there was this thing that got put together that did put a lot of bad apples in jail. Ultimately, the problem was, though, that it was like, oh, if you do this now, here's how you're going to get caught. Like, they basically laid out, like, here's all the way that they're now capable of catching corrupt cops. So don't do this again, but let's still be corrupt as fuck. Because let's be honest, like, I kept thinking this whole movie, oh, well, they don't pay cops enough, so give them raises. Like, let's say they're on the take for $500 a week. Give them a $500 a week raise. They're going to steal $600 a week after that. Like... They're fucking poison to the brain.
Even the corruption, like we said, starts with a roast beef sandwich, grows and grows and grows. So by the end, there's 7 of them who are at this point nobody's talking to the side of their mouths. Nobody's like hinting at things. They're like, we're each going to get $40,000 and we'll fucking murder you if you screw with this dude.
Well, like what they start doing, and I like, this is a part where the movie, like, it starts you off so slow, but then when it's really showing you the corruption, they'll send him to a new station, and the first thing they do is they pair him with whoever it is that collects the money, so that they can get his hands dirty right away, and then he just finds a way to wiggle out of it.
That's the dumbest shit, though. Like, hey, I want to go to a new station because I want it to be cleaner. But don't tell them, though, right? Like, make it a clean station. Don't tell them that I'm really into, like, being clean. Okay, Serpico. Yeah, let me make that phone call.
Well, this one's clean as a houndstooth. So
your reputation won't come with you.
Nothing is cleaner than a dog's mouth.
Dogs eat poop.
Before we move on, is Serpico a better cop than the other cops? Like, is he like the hero?
Well, one of the things that they did, and this, like, I read some quotes from the real Serpico, and it was really modernized. It felt very contemporary of, like, the whole police force is out to arrest as many people as possible instead of help as many people as possible. Like, he sounded like a real defund the police guy before that terrible title was given to it. And I think that a lot of that was done in the beginning when he was in his uniform and he was attempted rapist was like, hey, man, let me buy you a cup of coffee. Let's talk. You know, like, I'm going to look at you like a human being, which is something that...
Instead of just hitting you with a phone book?
Right.
What do they hit people with now, I wonder? Don't have a phone. You don't see a phone book anymore, Ryan.
Just they collect all the cops' phones in a pillowcase and use those.
Did you order the code red?
I think he's a better cop. If I may answer that question as well, Greg. I think he's a better...
You each have a turn.
He's a better cop
I want to go after Mike.
The other cops. But I don't know if he's a better guy because so much of it eventually turns into, like, he will burn his life to the ground. He'll hurt the people who love him.
Yeah.
Because now, like, he is a selfish, driven dude who pushes into... It's not like, well, I'm not going to get my hands dirty. He's like, I will hurt whoever it needs to hurt to stop this. And it stops being like, because this is the right thing to do, and starts being like, because it's the thing I happen to be obsessed with.
He gets obsessed with it.
Well, yeah. So what this movie resembles more than a cop movie is a music biopic.
Right.
Of just, like, going through all of those ups and downs and the obsession, you know? Like, just
or train spotting.
Or a drug movie, of, like, the screaming and the yelling, and I'm going to play it cool. And it has that energy of a Nirvana song, as so many Al Pacino performances do, is I'm going to keep it as quiet as I can so that when I scream, here's the chorus. Now I'm screaming at this woman who... for some reason decided to pair her life with mine.
He'll let you know here, and for the rest of his career, he can shout anywhere.
Yeah, dude.
But at least...
you try to meet up with me in public, I'll still shout.
At least it's sometimes quiet, sometimes loud, as opposed to future Al Pacino performances.
Where it's just loud, loud, loud. Loud, loud, loud. We are going to take what Mike reminds us is the quickest of breaks, and when we come back, do something completely different. Now, the segment that we are supposed to do right now, of course, is the Al Pacino career retrospective.
I double dog dare you.
But unfortunately, that has been preempted instead for Al Pacino's career retrospective. It would have been so funny not to do it, but I asked you to do extra work, Ryan, which would have made it funnier still. But no, I think we got to do it. And the only way to really reflect on anything... You know,
boo! I'm sorry. You're booing this man for doing what he is supposed to do.
It would have been so funny. I wish anybody could have seen my face, you guys or the listeners, the first time we were supposed to. And all week, Ryan was updating Greg and I how many Al Pacino films he'd watched. And I knew. I fucking knew the whole week that we weren't gonna do it.
That it was too much work. We're going to do something else instead.
You're a piece of shit person and a piece of shit friend.
Now, our
Thank
first
you.
matchup is our number 1 seed character, Michael Corleone from The Godfather, The Godfather Part 2,
And that's it.
and of course The Godfather Part 3, which does exist, and we have to just deal with that, versus himself, one Al Pacino in Jack and Jill. And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the Dunkachino commercial that everybody thinks is real. That's what this is. That's what this is, right?
Is this Adam Sandler's greatest
Contribution to the culture.
It's like
Yes.
the devil's greatest thing is that he pulling the wool over his eyes. What's that line from The Usual Suspects? Yes, this Dunkachinos do not actually, or Al Pacino does not actually represent the Dunkachino brand.
Unfortunately, many people believe that he does, and then sort of have their hearts broken when someone in the comments is like, "That's not actually a real commercial." But what do we think? Do we think that a bigger role is Michael Corleone, or I mean, he's himself in Jack and Jill. He's Al Pacino.
Nobody has ever thought Michael Corleone was a real guy.
No,
So,
that's true.
That didn't trick
He's no
anybody.
tar.
Nobody's- What?
He's no tar.
He's no Lydia Tar. But Al Pacino Dunkachino is the first tar.
What do you say about The Godfather? Besides, I'm a little surprised that all the dancing around and we've never landed on a year with a Godfather movie.
Yes.
Some say purposefully.
It might honestly be it's so daunting. They're so talked about, and it's so why put other movies into the bracket?
Yeah.
Well, 1990, we could probably put other movies in the bracket with that Godfather movie, but not for the other two. But what with the first two movies? What else do you need from not just an Al Pacino performance, but an actor in general? This is I think today we're doing our 6th Al Pacino movie, and.
Mhm.
I don't think anything compares to those two movies.
Yeah, and the change you see come over one person is so interesting in that the little, it's kind of like this movie in a way, I guess, the fresh-faced Pacino into the guy that loses everything.
Is he better than Mark Hamill going from boy farmer to Jedi at the beginning of Return of Jedi?
Potentially, I think maybe.
You're speaking crazy now.
I think he might change a little more in Serpico, and again, by the amount of facial hair and hair he has.
Yeah, you can always tell by how much facial hair. All right, our number 2 is John Milton. Is this from The Devil's Advocate?
Isn't that clever? His name's
His
John
character's
Milton.
named John Milton. in this?
Come on, Devil's Advocate.
I love it. Or Lowell Bergman from what, Ryan?
I don't know, Greg. Lowell Bergman.
Lowell Bergman.
Mike, you're the Al Pacino expert.
Right. And we all know Lowell Bergman.
We love Lowell Bergman.
He's
We're
from...
Lowell Bergman guys.
Well, he was
The
an American
Insider.
journalist in 1945.
The Insider.
It's from The Insider.
This is the Michael Mann movie where Russell Crowe is the whistleblower about the tobacco company.
Oh, yeah.
Based on all of us doing that right
It
now,
kind of
it's
feels
John
like
Milton.
John Milton from the Devil's.
Despite the unfortunate eye-rolly name.
The Insider is an amazing movie. Michael Mann is an amazing filmmaker. But The Devil's Advocate is perfect because they were like, oh, Al Pacino, you're gone now and you're never coming back. You're going to act like that forever. I guess the devil then. I guess you just play the devil.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, I think this is a case of the right movie at the right time for me. It's not a good movie, but I saw it a lot when I was young because it was about the devil. It had boobs in it.
Mm-hmm.
Your two favorite things.
Yeah, and it had Keanu Reeves, which is just I was
3
always,
favorite things.
Yeah, I was looking for any excuse to look at Keanu Reeves. So we're going to say John Milton moving on. Plus, that's so clever. I had no appreciation for that when I was a kid. Okay, so Sunny from Dog Day Afternoon is our 4th seed versus 13 seed, a movie that we have not talked about, Steve Burns from Cruising, which is the movie about gay nightclub culture. And I have not seen it. Have you seen that, Ryan?
I have not seen it, but it's directed by William Friedkin, who is just recently started to rest in peace. And
He was resting real loud and annoying before.
friend of the show, made The Exorcist.
it made
right?
The Exorcist, yeah. And you got to give it up for his choices here in 1980. Did you say Undercover Cop, which I guess is his thing, but I'm gonna learn the culture of the gay underground. I'm gonna go to the bars and there's a serial killer killing gay dudes. So I'm gonna go undercover and I'm gonna learn what this whole community is in 1980.
Yeah.
I say, and you're at the top of your fame, top of the game. I think that's an amazing choice. Unfortunately, all I know about it is he probably kicks open gay bar doors, and he's like, hoo-hah.
You guys all have great asses. You should be proud. Working hard. So what do we think it's going to be? Dog Day Afternoon, a movie that celebrates the trans community, or Cruisin', the movie that celebrates the gay community?
I think it's hard to ignore the power of Dog Day on this podcast.
Yeah.
It won a frickin' movie of the year, Greg.
Yeah, and also it's Pacino and Lumet together.
Lumet.
And it's a version of Airheads, so we all liked that.
Yep.
We love a good version of the Airheads.
You know that this show celebrates every remake and pre-make of Airheads. What's his name in Dog Day?
Sunny.
Sunny.
That won't be confusing at all. Number 5 seed, Frank Slade from Scent of a Woman.
Oh, boy.
Hoo-hah!
Hoo-hah himself?
Versus
Jonathan Hoo-hah.
Big Boy Caprice from Dick Tracy.
Now, we're doing iconic here?
Yes.
We are doing iconic, yeah.
Because I do think that Dick Tracy sort of went away despite Warren Beatty every 10 years making a special for late night. Big Boy, I think it was a big deal that Michael Corleone was playing the villain of fucking Dick Tracy when it came out. But yeah, the other one.
It's the role that broke Pacino's brain and career.
Yeah, the other one is Frank Slade.
And got him an Oscar.
Yeah. And we would miss his blind driving, right? We'd miss his hoo-hah. I mean, like, we know that Dick Tracy is something that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a fact of cinema that it happened.
I had cards.
I remember. Yeah, there were cards. There was like a big like marketing push.
If I'm alone and I have tracing paper, it's going down.
You're Dick Tracy.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that. And I remember that the bad guy turned out to be Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like it, right? There's nothing else from that. Nobody remembers anything else from that movie.
People remember more about Dick Tracy from the movie Truth or Dare than they remember from the movie
so
Dick Tracy.
True. And Ryan, you mentioned the Warren Beatty like late night things. They do that to like hang on to the rights or something, right?
Because as an 85-year-old, he still thinks that he is the Dick Tracy and might make the sequel at some point.
But won't. But just keeps doing weird late night things with Leonard Maltin.
And I've watched them all. I've seen the whole catalog.
The real arc is, what if Dick Tracy's head was this big now? And that's always shocking.
I have to say, I can have a phone call on my watch. So we finally caught up to Dick Tracy technology. All right. Well, it sounds like Frank Slade is moving on. Up next is number 2, star of many a poster on college frat boys' walls, Tony Montana from Scarface, versus number 15, and I would like to make a very strong case for Aldo Gucci from House of Gucci.
Okay, this, like I said about the Devil's Advocate,
Father, son, House of Gucci.
This is just putting Al Pacino where he belongs. Just over the top screaming.
House of Gucci is nonstop over the top performances by some of our like scenery chewingest actors of all time, and they are all trying to gnaw as much scenery as they possibly can.
Every one of his lines is hoo-ah, hoo-ah, Gucci gang, Gucci gang.
Hungry, Hungry Hippos, the movie. Chew it all out.
And I get the feeling that for a cinema podcast, we have an extremely low collective opinion of Scarface. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've never understood it. Cool poster, but it is a trash movie.
Yeah. So does that mean that Aldo Gucci can slip through?
I don't think so, Greg. not from here.
This is the first one I feel like I have to put to a vote. Mike, what do you think?
I'm King hates Scarface, but come on, I can't. It is. Think of all those college boys and their posters.
Think
we
of
can't
all
let them
those
down.
posters, man. That would be like not having the guest girls that kiss make it to the next round, right? How could we do that? Okay, number 7 seed is Benjamin Ruggiero, and I meant to look up what that was from.
Is that Donnie Brasco?
That's from Donnie Brasco. Good job. I can see the D. I can see the D, everybody. Versus number 10 seed, Carlito Brigante from Carlito's Way.
Yes.
Now
It's got to be Carlito's Way.
Right, it does. Right, I've never seen Carlito's Way. Am I missing out?
I think it's fine. It's Brian De Palma again. Who?
Oh, De Palma just won me over with Sisters, right, Ryan?
He also made Scarface.
And he made Scarface. Wow, this guy's a busy bee.
Donnie Brasco is a movie that I fucking love and was surprised because we've done 1997. I didn't look up our 97 bracket, but we did not do a Donnie Brasco show, and that is stupid of us.
I
To be
bet
fair
it
to
was
us,
a near thing.
We only did 8 movies then. We were yet to the big 16.
Plus, to be fair to us, back then we were probably like Johnny Depp. Ew.
Yeah.
So, but Donnie Brasco was amazing, and I love the late career. I'm gonna play a loser. Like he, made his career on playing gangsters, and now he's like the most pathetic, most loser gangster.
Yeah.
Getting fucking taken by an undercover cop, which he also made his career playing. Donnie Brasco rules. I'm actually voting for it.
Mike, do you agree?
Carlito's Way was iconized, lionized,
Sure. Any
Frozen
of those.
Carbonite by the
got that.
cast of Love singing a song about Carlito's Way that's in my head all the time. So no, it's gonna have to be Carlito's Way for me.
Oh, yeah. Love has that thing where they all get together and they like make up.
Is that why you love The Perfect Storm so much?
Yes.
If you didn't have ice cream, it wasn't the perfect storm. So it sounds like Benjamin Ruggiero moving on.
What's up to you, bud?
Oh, it's up to me? Then that's what it sounds like. It sounds like that just happened right there. Our next matchup is number 3 seed, Frank Serpico from a movie called Serpico
Mm-hmm.
versus number 14 seed from our 2002 season. The movie was Insomnia, and the character was Will Dormer, that's so great. Because that sounds like sleepy, or is that right? So that's nice. I like that. I enjoy that. That's the number 14 seed. Does anybody want to argue that for the Insomnia character?
I could see arguing that Serpico should be the number 1 seed and Will Dormer should not be in this bracket.
Yeah, I would say Serpico would be a good number 1 seed. But yeah, Michael Corleone, I guess.
I guess. It's because it's iconic. I think he's great in Insomnia, and that movie rules. But come on.
Insomnia is a great movie. If you have not checked out Insomnia, please do. And I believe our episode of that actually made it. I don't think that's one of our special lost episodes.
Wait, hold on. Are we at like 50-50 now?
Yeah, dude, it's pretty bad. Every season, every
every season got one.
Every season has one, and I just
it was Unforgiven. Not is that the right name of the movie? The
No.
Diane Lane movie.
Unfaithful.
Oh,
Unfaithful. Yeah,
Wow.
Unforgiven.
That
is
is,
the
you're
fucking
right. That
couple.
is that
Yeah,
season's
it's
last
Unfaithful.
episode.
That's not as devastating as A Brighter Summer Day.
No, A Brighter Summer Day is
No,
the
'cause
saddest
that
thing
movie's
that's
so
ever
fucking
happened.
long.
I watched that movie twice. It's 4 hours long, and then we lost the tape.
That's a full 9 to 5.
Okay, so our last matchup of the
Wait,
first...
I'm sorry. Hold on. Who won?
Oh, Serpico.
Oh. Who's that?
Serpico. Might have had a
Serpico
little bit
always wins. I think that's the point of this movie.
Might have had a little bit of an edge there. And then our last matchup of this first round, 6 seed Vincent Hanna from Heat versus 11 seed Tony D'Amato from Any Given Sunday. And I know it's the lower seed, but when people talk about Pacino, this is the first character I think of. The inches we need all around us, right? Come on.
That's not how sports works, though, right?
He had a great end zone. You put the ball right up it.
But Heat has to be, I mean...
I'm a loud and proud Scarface hater.
Yeah.
I don't love Heat.
You don't love Heat?
I think Heat is a
Yeah,
little
you're
overrated.
a quiet and timid Heat hater.
Yeah, well, because the fucking Bill Simmons universe, who have anointed Heat as this like all-time Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
It's a fine movie.
And that's another Michael Mann, right?
Yes.
Yes. I agree. Heat.
The worst superhero of all time.
Heat.
Damn it. All the powers of me. That sucks.
All- I was bitten by a radioactive Michael.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. He was not radioactive. He just fucking bit me.
This rabbit.
Mike.
He's on fire!
And he's afraid of water. But between the two of those, which one is moving on? Mike.
Heat Man.
Ryan.
I can't remember what the second one was.
Any Given Sunday.
I'm going with Coach D'Amato of the Miami Sharks.
Let me tell you what I like about Coach D'Amato. He's sitting at a bar, and a woman like 25 years his junior comes and hits on him and is like, do you want to go upstairs? And it turns out she's a prostitute, and he is so shocked. And I just think that is so special. You thought that a beautiful woman, 25 years younger than you, just approached you at a bar because you're the coach of the LA Sharks?
Greg is describing a crystal ball of our future.
I'm not mad at it. But since it is me, I'm going to say Tony D'Amato.
Yes!
Moving on.
He made Willie Beeman a star.
That is true. That is true. Jamie Foxx, speedy recovery. Please stop being anti-Semitic. All right, so in the next round, we have Michael Corleone versus John Milton, the literal devil. What do you guys think?
Do you know what?
MC.
I'm sorry, what?
MC.
Oh, MC.
MC
Devil.
Scat Cat.
In Paradise Lost, that devil would just wrap hell like in his nutsack and just fly around with it.
Yeah.
He would just take it with him when he went to heaven and other places.
Also, don't you think it's clever? Because, like, John Milton in Paradise Lost, he makes the devil, like, the good guy. And so that kind of is it like the devil would take that name, right? Because he's like, here's a guy who understands me.
The devil would wear Prada, but he's out. It's Michael Corleone.
Fucking get the fuck out of here. Okay, how about Sonny from Dog Day Afternoon versus Frank Slade from Scent of a Woman?
Oh, I mean, I think all three of us were waiting to get Frank Slade the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
as soon as
right?
possible, right?
Mike, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, how about Scarface versus
Donnie Brasco.
Donnie Brasco?
It's got to be Scarface.
Right, we just our personal preferences can't get in the way of this.
But please,
They already did
everyone,
with Scent of a Woman.
go watch Donnie Brasco. It's a wonderful movie.
And then I think this is coming up pretty easy. Serpico versus Coach D'Amato. I was the Coach D'Amato guy, I feel like, from the last one, but
And
not.
we're both going to be Coach D'Amato now, yeah.
But now I'm going to flip it. It's Coach D'Amato.
Yeah, it's definitely Coach
A
D'Amato.
clean sweep for Coach D'Amato. But honestly, it's Serpico, right?
Yeah.
gentlemen? All fun aside.
I mean, if we picked Coach D'Amato, he would come up to get his award and then pull off a mask, and it's fucking Serpico. He did it again to us.
This, you can tell this is fated to be, because check this out. Michael Corleone versus Sonny, right?
That's his brother's name.
Kind of and isn't that kind of like who's going to, the spirit of the family, right? Who's it
Right.
going to be? Corleone. So, well, they're both Corleone, Greg. It's their brothers. They got the same
No,
last name.
some brothers
big guy.
have different last names.
I never had a brother. I'm not quite sure how it works.
It'd be awesome if your alpha brother just took your last name from
Yeah.
you. Just broke it over his knee.
But Dog Day versus Godfather. Whew. What do we think? Any chance for Dog Day here?
I mean, if we're thinking iconic, unfortunately not.
Yeah, right.
Oh, and who is his partner in Dog Day? Who's Sonny's partner in Dog Day? It's Fredo.
Oh my God, yeah, it's Fredo.
Whoa. Way to reuse those names over and over, Italians.
Well, I don't think that was his character's name.
Italians. We're probably not supposed to say it, but that's fun, isn't it? Italian.
I can say it. I'm a wop.
Well, you could say it. Yeah, man, that's so fun. You're Sicilian. You get away with so much stuff because of that. You're hitting a lot of bases.
Everybody conquered me, so I can say all the words.
And I'm sorry, Mike, you get to say it because you're a wet-ass pussy?
Macaroni in a pot.
That's our people's national anthem now.
Is that one of the most clever lines of all time, macaroni in a pot? I mean, that's exactly what that sounds like, everybody. She's very right about that. Scarface from the movie Scarface or Serpico from the movie Serpico?
Oh, man. I wish there was an MCU team up here. But no, it's Serpico by far.
Say hello to my little friend,
I
Serpico.
disagree. It's the quotability, the posters. If we're talking iconic,
Oh,
it's
the
still
posters.
fucking
We always
Scarface.
take into consideration the posters. That is true.
And-
We're
okay,
always
Listen
counting
to one thing
posters.
I said, you stupid fucking asshole. No, come on. Scarface is way more iconic.
If you have ever seen a movie outside of the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, then
Which
you
are
know,
great movies, obviously.
No, they're very good.
Yeah, I
It's-
don't know why you're dogging those great movies right now.
It's clearly Serpico.
I am also going to go with Serpico. So goodbye, Scarface. So we have one gangster who wants to go legit and one cop who does not want to go illegit. It is Michael Corleone versus Serpico.
I'd also like to throw in a wrinkle right here. A third. Let's bring back Al Pacino from Jack and Jill.
Duncan Chino himself.
At this time, can we throw out some Pacinos that we are surprised didn't make it?
Sure.
Jack Kevorkian Pacino? The Paterno Pacino?
The Paterno Pacino.
Paterno Pacino.
Paterno Pacino
No.
is, first of all, a lovely dish, but also a TV movie.
Number one, though, honestly, for me, was Irishman.
Yes.
Jimmy Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa was just a supporting part.
So, yeah, not quite the same cast.
Yeah, and according to Letterboxd, the number one seed was Once Upon a Time in America, where he has 2 scenes. But they're not ranking it on Al Pacino role. They're ranking it on like the popularity of that movie, which I guess according to Letterboxd is more popular than The Godfather, Godfather 2, Scarface, Serpico.
Do yourself a favor, Letterboxd. Watch The Godfather.
Pull your
The
head
Godfather
out of your
Part
ass.
2. So who's it going to be, Michael Corleone or Frank Serpico? Mike?
Yeah, MC
What a
Gangsters
nickname.
got it.
Yeah.
Ryan. Yeah,
That's gotta be.
obviously. Michael Corleone, our number 1 seed. Not surprising anybody. Probably his biggest role. Maybe the biggest role in all of cinema. Maybe the biggest role in like American entertainment for all time. Michael Corleone. When we come back, we have talked about so many movies. Could we please get back to talking about Serpico?
No.
Gentlemen, the acting in this movie is very big, very loud, but not necessarily in the Al Pacino stereotypical way. Does shouting to the back of the house augment the tension or undercut it? What do you say, Mike?
This could be like when you are a little kid and you think everything before the 30s was in black and white.
Uh-huh.
It feels like everybody is on some sort of substance that is new. They're coked out on disco
Cocaine.
and dancing.
In 1973, Mike.
And they are all yelling all the time because things are just... Everything is cranked up to the top, whether it's anger, enthusiasm. So it's just like, yes, this is life, baby. I don't know. It is huge. And if you're just walking in and out of a room like somebody I know was, it's going to sound like a dumb movie. But if you're sitting down watching, it really fits and creates its own vibe.
Ryan, do you agree that the acting goes to the yellow sphere a little bit too much?
Honestly, I don't think it's as often. I think that the most memorable parts are full of yelling, and so those are the stickiest parts.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it does, like, because there's so many other parts where his partner Bob and he are in the subway smoking the weed and coming up with their plan.
We have to set the scene. This would have made me want to be a cop when I was a kid.
For sure.
So they're like...
way more than, like, beating up thugs and...
Yeah. They're like, okay, we got to police the smoking of marijuana cigarettes. And there's honestly no way to do it without we all roll up J's and just get stoned and hang out together. And they just smoke pot. And Serpico, who is very bohemian, lives in Greenwich Village, dresses very loud. He's just like, he holds the joint like a pro. And he's just like... oh, damn. This is good stuff. And then he and his friend Bob hang out, who's also like a veteran stoner. So there's that subtlety there.
He's normcore. Like, he's a dork.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
still.
He looks the squarest you've ever
right,
seen.
but he's fucked up.
He's the type of stoner I am, where you blend and, like, everyone assumes that guy's a cop. He is. Everyone assumes I'm a cop. I'm not.
I'm not even sure what they were kicking, but they called it a potato machine, and they wanted...
Yeah, they wanted the...
It was a vending machine, but they just kept calling it
a potato factory. A little potato factory. This movie is famously... I guess allegedly, but I think it's pretty clear that this is the case, that they filmed it backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that they did that so that Pacino could have his hair completely grown out, full beard, and then they could just like keep like taking down little elements of it. I wondered watching it if that is the reason why the first half of the movie the acting seems a little bit more subtle, and the second half everybody is screaming at each other, because that's a hard... I think it's hard to start with your big performances and then move towards your subtle performances. Maybe it makes your subtle performances better, but I felt like all the high drama of this movie is what they filmed first, and that's why it seemed to me like there was just so much shouting, yelling, very big, high energy scenes.
I can totally see that, but I also think that we're coming off of The Godfather and The French Connection, which is like the most rip-roaring cop movie of all time, with chase scenes and all this stuff. And so they're
like some of the most famous car chases of all time.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, I would put that and Bullet as like responsible for all of the clip shows that you've ever seen with car chases. And they're saying we have to replace these shootouts, which we're not going to have, except for Serpico taking one right to the fucking cheek, with something. We have to replace it with something. And so I think that is going to be screaming. The problem for Sydney, I think, is how do we do that and then also not make it seem like everybody paid for a movie theater ticket to watch a TV show?
Yes.
That's the hardest part. And I think that getting a bunch of these character actors together and making them bigger than TV actors, which, you know, are already like big at the time, I'm assuming, like, you know, if you're a TV actor at the time, this is mostly from Quentin Tarantino. I didn't watch a lot of TV in 1973, but like you have to come in, you have to like get your career going with this part, so you're going to be screaming and yelling. At this point, I think
Carol O'Connor, right? Isn't that Archie?
Yeah, and he started off in like these B movies that Tarantino would watch. But yeah, like you have to sort of amp yourself up, and if Pacino is raising the volume, you have everybody has no choice but to just keep going.
And I also think why it works for me is that he's not just screaming hoo-has, is everybody is one, they're all playing triple roles, right? The cops are often undercover, but they're pretending to be good people when they're bad people.
Yes.
If you accuse anybody of doing the thing they're doing, that is the angriest and loudest you will ever see them. So
or if you just don't participate in it with them.
Right.
Like you see them do it and you don't do it. Yeah.
And so it all works is like, I will get doubly angry because you're calling out a real thing here. And that I feel like it really works.
But yeah, you also have like taking money. Everybody knows if you really truly listen to your Jiminy Cricket, which is hard for them because they're cops, is bad. They know that it's bad. So they're also doing this thing of like, I have to speak loud enough.
Yeah.
And I have to use my face loud enough where I can completely ignore that thing. I can make being on the take so normal that Jiminy Cricket can be ignored.
Yeah, and that's why everybody has to do it. Like there can't be a single person that doesn't do it because then it's not a normal thing to do.
Exactly.
And the other thing about the yelling, I think that we have to keep in mind is that like that is built into the story. He gets so overwrought and he's so freaked out that like his girlfriend says, "I want to break up with you here. That way you couldn't start yelling." And he's like, "I'll yell anywhere I want to yell."
Why I love that scene is because he's like, "I'll shout anywhere," and then instantly, if we're talking about Nirvana again, goes, "I won't shout here though." Like, and he gets so quiet and timid.
Also, gentlemen, not to point out fourth or fifth or sixth characters of this ensemble, but this movie does not take place in Seattle or Des Moines.
Yes,
this is it. Like the movie spends a solid 20 minutes saying like this is dirty ass fucking dipshit New York.
Yes.
And as far as I know, having never been there but I've seen countless movies about it, this is people's normal register is screaming.
Yeah.
They're loud people.
And they are walking here and they are eating pizza.
Also, New York of like the 70s is what country music stars think the New York of today is. I mean, like, there's a wild and woolly territory where, like, you cannot expect your safety of your ears or of your person at any time.
Someone would rip your ear right off.
They'll just tear it away.
Then chug Pace Picante.
While we're sort of, like, focusing on Serpico, there's a lot about Serpico's personal life in this. And there's a lot that hangs over the movie about, like, he's accused at one point of being a homosexual. And I feel like that never totally leaves the movie. He is shown constantly with women, but is he ever, like, he's never quite shown kissing or sleeping with them. What are we to make of, like, the kind of focus on his personal life? And what is this movie saying and not saying about that?
That's interesting. The way that I always looked at it is that he is this guy. Like, not a player, but, like, a guy. I don't know if Lothario is the right word, but always
a ladies' man,
bit of a rake,
always has some irons in the fire, and that's not. And he's not like cheating. It's just that Serpico can't be alone, right? Like he's never sleeping alone. He's always got somebody on, like in on it. And there's one scene where he's telling a story, and it eventually leads to a back massage, and he's got his crudité, his cheese plate that I'm sure he has a million of. He just pulls them out every time a girl comes over. He seems like
a crudité guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of crudite everywhere, and I think that he's that guy that feels better he feels more comfortable in the audience of women or one girl in particular than like a locker room full of guys.
Yeah,
for sure. But just is always like sort of, isn't this more fun to get introspective and talk about feelings and then fuck than it is to drink a ton and then fight each other?
Yeah, he's a sensitive boy. He's reading a book about ballet early on and gets called out because the guy's like, "Ooh, belly dancer." He's like, "Ballet. Have you heard of ballet?" It is so pretentious and amazing in that scene.
And dude, like, I got to think, if I was a cop in 1973, the being on the take thing aside, I would be like, "Hey, bud, I don't want you to get killed. Don't do ballet in the policeman gym room."
The looks he gets from so many people as he's going through the 5 positions in there. And what's interesting, because the guy's like, he's like, "Yeah, I've been doing it after work. That's what keeps me so fit." And the guy's like, "I've noticed."
Yeah, and then Top Gun guy is in it, and he like flips out.
You mean Back to the Future guy?
Back to the Future principal is in it, and he flips out in
Oh,
a way
yeah.
that indicates he has had like a negative experience in his life where someone tried to victimize him or something. Because he's like, "Are you sucking each other's dicks in here?"
Well, he found boxers with semen on them, Greg.
What the fuck with that? Like, what are you doing, dude? Where did you find these? What's going on? What are
I
you even
kept
talking
digging and
about?
digging and digging, and finally I found my treasure: boxers with semen.
And then Serpico does live in Greenwich Village, which is like bohemian, but also like a homosexual enclave at the time. And the first time I watched it, I was like, is this guy supposed to be gay? But it seems like instead he's this type of guy that both you and I are, Mike, frankly, which is so into women that people are like, you're gay. Why do you like ladies so much and their bodies? Is it because you're a queer?
Wait, you go down on girls? That's so fucking gay.
And I think ultimately that's what it is, right? He likes banging chicks so much that people think he's gay for.
But
It is because he's sensitive, and because he knows to be a good cop, and it's just what he's into. He's intellectual, he's sensitive, he wants to be around poetry and art, and all of those things can and have been accused of like it's queer coded.
Yeah.
But the Lothario thing and being alone, going back to he has two big quote unquote loves here, right? The first one he meets in class when he's walking into his apartment with the groceries and she's there. Another one of his neighbors walks out and kisses him, and he's like, she's a crazy girl. I don't know what's going about that.
Yes.
And it is one of those things. It's the second because at first you're like they're all crazy. It's Greenwich Village, and watching you're like, oh, I'm pretty sure he's lying.
no, yeah, he's big at everything. The crazy part, though, about the Back to the Future principal or Dean from Top Gun is when he says, "Are you an F-slur?" And it's Serpico's reaction of like, "What the fuck did you just say to me?" Like he's so taken aback by it that we're at this point we know how much integrity he has in the police force. We know how much integrity he has that he's not saying racial slurs, right? Like everybody's equal in his mind except for this one thing. And I found it odd. I don't know if he's so upset by an accusation that he might be gay that I don't know if it was him, Serpico, acting, or that's how you have to make a movie in 1973. That's how you have to write the dialogue, or him, like that's how you have to be in order to keep cops off your ass. Is you have to performatively be like make sure everyone knows.
I think
straight.
that's what it is. I think honestly, probably Serpico has been accused of being gay a lot, like because that happened to me all the time, and there's no defense for it besides being like, clearly I'm not. I'm the one that's with a different woman every week. Why would I be the gay guy?
And I think it starts with his brother being like, why are you going to move to that
Yes.
neighborhood? Again, like it's one of those things like, oh, things are being said without being said openly.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I could see him being truly bohemian, and I think Serpico fucks everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. It keeps his options open, right?
Just Roman style. Here's my dick. Who wants it? I think the other important moment too is that he says at this giant party that feels like at any point, this is in the beginning of the movie, could break into an orgy. He's like, "Hey, you want to stop telling people I'm a cop? Because that is fucking, that's not doing great for my game." And so she does, and he starts connecting with people. And there's like this whole montage of him being like, essentially Spuds McKinsey, like the ultimate party animal. And then after the montage, and now he loves it. Like this is a huge change. Like he doesn't wear the uniform anymore. He's ultimately bohemian, and like it's a different costume every day, and we don't know if it's undercover or just that's the style. And there's this clip at the end of the montage of his girlfriend at the time going like, "Serpico, everyone loves you."
At the end of the party, she's like, "Serpico, you're a hit. Everybody loves you.
You're the most
Serpico, baby. Dunkachinos for everyone."
Just 6 shooters into the air. She says it.
Shut the fuck up. I know that was you. I ain't even gotta look.
I don't even have to look. When we come back, something else entirely. Genre switch. We are switching genres. We love the movies of 1973, and I think by and large we would agree that they are each in their proper genre. Correct, gentlemen? Like we like Serpico as a thriller, or do we feel like it needs to change genre?
I would honestly remake it as the music video Thriller.
Yeah.
As Johnny Hollywood, as people call me, I'm not coming up with new ideas, Greg. I need to remake everything from 1973.
Yeah,
We're going
right.
to make a remix.
There is a writer's strike, and so what we have to do here is train our little AI brains by recombining good ideas that are already out there. And so we're going to take some of the 1973 movies we haven't had a chance to look at in depth yet, and just switch the genres around a little bit. So, gentlemen, the first thing I would like to do is the movie The Long Goodbye, sort of like a noir comedy, right? That a lot of people would agree, wow, that's perfect. That's a perfect genre for that. Now me, I want to see it as a musical. What would that be like?
Okay. What's good and makes it easier, musicals are also shaggy and overlong often. So
Just like
keeping
Elliot
that.
Gould's hair.
And there's going to be a hit song, like heavy stuff is happening, but in the middle we need some levity, and it's going to just be like, here's my cat. You know I really love my cat.
I feel us getting a music number just out of the perpetually naked neighbors, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
a lot of like harmonies, multiple women singing at the same time, kind of like the angels in a fountain.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of him breaking through, like, they're doing it again.
I may be a short guy, but there's gonna be a long goodbye. Right? I think we got
Standing O for that.
I think we got legs here. No bridge noir, But I think there's a lot to work with there. Ryan, anything you want to add? He's shaking his head no, indicating that there's nothing he would like to add.
He
to
hates
that.
musicals.
He
so.
does. Ryan is known for absolutely hating musicals. Mike, I do appreciate the fact that you acknowledged that The Long Goodbye is a little bit of a shaggy dog there.
And I'll say it again when we finally get there. One of my favorite movies.
Yes.
But oh man, is it meandery. You have to be in the right, let's go anywhere kind of movie. I'm so glad before I saw, what was the Thomas Pynchon? He was the P.T. Anderson. Joaquin Phoenix is in it. Inherent Vice. I'm so glad somebody's like, oh, it's like Long Goodbye. Because now I'm like, oh, I know I can strap into this.
I'm an Inherent Vice guy. I like that movie, Inherent Vice.
It's so good.
It's such a weird movie, and it's so interesting. I also feel like we have to incorporate his weird mumbling. Like, there has to be like a Hamiltonian almost like rap, but it's just him mumbling to himself about like the modern state of the world.
Mumble rap has been too easily forgotten and not put on stage yet.
We need to go back to mumblecore, and we need to do it right now. Mike, a lot of people, Mike and Ryan, you know what? Well, I'll address both of you. Ryan, you're fine with that, I'm sure.
Ryan. He doesn't like musicals.
As everybody knows, I am afraid to watch the movie The Exorcist, and I think what it comes down to more than anything else, it's not any particular scenes, it's not the jump scares, right?
The masturbation with the cross?
It's not the masturbation with the cross. It's not hearing a little girl saying your mother sucks cocks in hell. Which, if you're gonna be in hell, you might as well enjoy yourself. But
Nancy Reagan, are you listening?
Throat Groat of Hell and Hollywood.
Yeah. I think the problem with The Exorcist, honestly, is that it's a horror movie. I think it would be better for me, and not everybody's going to agree with this. I might like it more if it were a buddy comedy. Ryan, what do you think that the buddy comedy Exorcist might be like?
Okay, so instead of Pazuzu getting all up in that girl's brain,
Yes.
Pazuzu pulls up a car and says, Reagan, get in. This isn't buddy cop, this is just buddy comedy.
Just buddies.
It
says buddy comedy.
We're going shopping.
Get
in, Reagan, we're going shopping. And she's like, Mom, can I? And Ellen Burstyn's like, yes, fine.
And then the little girl and Reagan go shopping?
Pazuzu and Reagan, yeah.
Go shopping.
So it's Linda Blair in makeup and Linda Blair out of makeup. Linda
Right.
Blair and Linda Blair
Now-
go shopping. But they are driving across the country and hitting all the biggest malls in America.
Yes, which, I mean, back then, the malls were like still
So
something
many.
to look at. I'm imagining everywhere they go, she's doing the upside down crab walking.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
When they she needs to sneak into an 18 over movie theater or something, there's hijinks there. She still says to somebody, cuts them off while they're driving, their mother sucks cocks in hell.
They're like, I don't want to pay for this meal because it made my friend sick. And then it cuts to Pazuzu and head spins and pukes everywhere.
I am imagining that we have a montage and we go back to the well that is projectile vomiting several times, right? So it's like she comes out and it's like one outfit looks good and she like nods. She comes out, another one looks like a little wacky, and she's just like puking in all directions. And then we just go back to that a few times.
The Blair
And it
Bitch
gets
Project.
bigger and bigger.
The Blair Bitch Project. No, Ryan.
No?
No, I'm not going to accept that.
And to give it some tension, because even buddy comedy's like Max van Sydow hates fashion, and
Yes.
so he's trying to track them down to
Yes.
stop them from shopping.
Or Max von Sydow has said, if anybody's lawn goes brown in this neighborhood, I'm going to buy the town and I'm going to turn it into a factory. And so it's up to her becoming a sprinkler for everyone's lawn, shooting fertilizer and mulch onto lawn. I don't know how lawns work.
You shoot
Or puke.
fertilizer and mulch on them. That's exactly how it works. 1973 featured a very important Bruce Lee movie, Enter the Dragon. But to me, that sounds like the title of like one of these Hannibal movies. So I would like to do Enter the Dragon, but it's a slasher movie. What would that be like, Mike?
Okay, slashers are so often going up against virginal teens.
Groups of teens, yeah.
And so one man who's been partying with those teens and maybe teaching them some karate says, no, you killed my young friends, and now I'm coming after you, slasher. And so he is the slasher's boogeyman. And
He's
gonna
actually
kill all
going-
the slashers.
Because
with
what I
his-
was thinking of was, imagine instead of Jason haunting these kids at a camp, it's just Bruce Lee.
Oh, that's
and instead
terrifying.
of using a machete, he just comes out and kicks them to death.
Can't. Is there a knife on his foot, or
No, it's
Nope.
not. The slash is just the slashing of his foot through the air.
has he not clipped his toenails in a long time?
Yes, he's
Probably.
cutting those throats with those toenails.
Can the opening scene, in like a Scream sort of way, can it be the murder of a singing detective and two little girls, a blonde and a Pazuzu, and that's who dies? I'm trying to like. We need to universe.
You
this,
think we
guys.
need to put these together? What
Yeah.
we need is a shared universe.
Right.
A shared 1973 universe.
73 EU?
Oh man, yeah. I think the market has clearly shown that if you have a shared universe, that's what people really want. You want to
And
invest
build
in
it
that
up
front.
before people even like one movie.
Yes.
Really put a
before
lot
you're
of
even
lore
done
and
with the
connective
first
tissue.
movie.
So like in the post-credit scene of the Long Goodbye, the musical, you have Bruce Lee at the end saying to Elliot Gould, "I'm going to kill you" at some point.
Well,
Yeah.
you show it just like the Fast franchise where Han dies and you just see legs, and later you find out that's Jason Statham's legs. So then you're like, what is the continuity of the 73 EU?
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
You don't even know.
And I think it's most important for the people who are writing, like creating the universe, to honestly
To not
never know
know.
what is
No,
the
figure
continuity
that out
of the
in
universe.
post.
Yeah.
Figure
You-
that out in post.
you don't want to get bogged down in details, like where are we going, or
Just
or
you
how
always
does this
want to
all
like
work
text
together?
your editors, figure this out, please.
Oh man, I was hanging out with my sister today, and we were just having me and her kids were just
Brag.
having a conversation about all the ways in which the Star Wars movies don't align meaningfully, and it's like they went out of their way to make sure that nothing lined up the way it was supposed
Well,
to.
when it becomes a revenge water balloon fight between two directors, like
When it becomes the site of a tragic gasoline fight. All right, teen dramas, everybody loves them. The
Facts.
Bond movie, Live and Let Die, nobody has ever liked. I think the problem is these two awesome flavors need to be combined. Ryan, what would the teen drama version of Live and Let Die be like?
all right, young James Bond.
James
Get-
Bond Jr., if you will, if you
James-
remember that 90s
His
cartoon.
nephew, not his son, because you're not allowed to do that in cartoons. No one can have a
Yeah.
kid because they fucked then.
Right.
But as long as it's like a nephew, so he's James Bond Jr., the nephew of James Bond.
Donald Duck would say, "Hey, Uncle Scrooge, here are my nephews."
Yes.
Also, your nephews.
Yeah.
Because no one shot
Nobody's
his.
balls ever contain
Nope.
any
Nobody's
character.
weird
Nobody's
twirly duck dick.
corkscrew dick ever entered into a vagina. So James Bond Jr., played by Sean Connery Jr., commits a crime in Chino. And a lawyer has to come and pick him up.
Can that lawyer, just because we still want to have some Live and Let Die
Welcome to Nolan's, bitch.
connections, there is a tarot reader who's psychic. Can the lawyer also be a psychic tarot card reader?
I'm sorry, Tara Reid plays a psychic? Is that what you just said?
Yes, I think so. Well, if we're going teen comedies,
We need Tara Reid, who
we
plays
need
a
Tara
psychic.
Reid.
Man, that whole movie, you wait for it to turn out that she's somehow not a fortune teller, but it just doesn't happen. It's just like, nah, I think that she reads the future.
Also, she has whipped cream and cherries covering her genitalia the entire time.
Maybe we can, because it's for teens, just for funsies, make ours not racist.
How about the
Teens hate racism. You're right. That's not going to make
the Dr.
UFO
No
box
Seat
dollars.
is what I would call it.
All right. And last but not least, The movie High Plains Drifter has a lot of potential, and I think would be even better as an occult movie. What would that be like, I wonder?
It kind of is.
Yeah, I know. When I picked this one totally randomly, there was a couple things I tried to like put with this movie, and I realized this is like an occult movie, isn't it?
How about the lady that Clint Eastwood rapes in the beginning, or hero rapes in the beginning of the movie?
The one of the two women that he does that to.
Sorry, the first one.
Yes.
She's the one that starts the cult.
Yes.
Instead of having it be Clint, it's this woman who's like, hey, we're going to have this cult against fucking cowboys. And then they just start killing cowboys.
Oh, that's with magic.
Or guns.
A cult or cult?
Yeah, is it
OCC
a cult
or
or cult?
C?
A cult.
Oh.
Yeah,
And
that's
she's a
what
witch.
I thought, with magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's a witch.
I thought it was a cult movie. I thought it was
it's
cult movie.
No, it's
A
an
cult.
occult movie.
In a cult movie.
In a cult
How about
movie.
a cult of witches?
A cult that covers all the bases. Weirdly enough, though, this movie kind of is that because it's not totally clear that this character is not literally the devil who comes and literally creates hell on Earth.
Literally paints the town red.
Yeah, and like just paints hell on the sign going to the town.
I'm so sorry, Greg. I'm not a good fan of this. Is High Plains Drifter in the top 16? The Sweet 16?
No, it's not. It
got
didn't. It
booted?
didn't make it, and thank goodness because there's
Were
no.
we just too nervous?
There's like, it's so hard to be like, okay, so the protagonist rapes somebody right away, but moving past that to really get into the movie, it's just like the way in which it's not handled or digested by the movie, the way in which like we are left to know that it's wrong, and then have the movie perpetually show us that the movie doesn't actually consider it that wrong. Like
I have a solution. We give Drop Pad a clip of us saying that it's wrong.
It's wrong.
And so every time we talk about the movie, he can just shout that out.
That's
That we
wrong.
already said that it was wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have steered clear of that whole
Steer
hill
clear of that
beans.
and right into Last Tango in Paris. So that'll be fun.
Oh yeah, that definitely is on the list.
That's a devil who used butter.
1973, everybody. We only picked the year and the movies. We don't think anything that they do is acceptable, including Serpico with all the graft. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about that again. This is our second Pacino / Lumet film, and third Lumet film in general. What magic happens when the two work together? Is Lumet not heralded because he seems to be more of an actor's director than a technical visionary? Now, first of all, do we agree that this is not one of Hollywood's most heralded directors?
I mean, that's such a good question. I think that like as time goes on, he is. But I think that part of it is because he literally wrote the book
Smart.
about making movies
Smart
called
move.
Making Movies.
And
I think that's
It's good
so
SEO.
oft-referenced. But the book, what's crazy about the book is that it's like, movies not hard. Just fucking put a camera up, you know? And so, like,
Yeah.
I think that sort of hurt his legacy in a way of like, I don't even try hard. Just fucking point to things and cameraman will shoot it.
Is this movie, Mike, is this a technically brilliant movie, like in terms of its directing?
I think there's more going on than his name just isn't often mentioned, and this isn't real film people. This is people who think they're film people, so they only talk about the hits. They only talk about the new brats of Hollywood and Tarantino and Nolan. Those seem to be the only fucking names. And yeah, it doesn't feel like a lot's going on because there's not a scene that he's like, I'm the fucking director now, but he switches from like steady cam. It feels like documentary style in the beginning of the movie to actual movie. And like as Serpico is what at first you think dying and remembering his life, there is like a doodle doodle. It's almost sepia tone as the cops graduate at Columbia for some reason. And I think he knows what to do. And so each scene feels very disparate, but it stitches together in a really natural way. I just think he is unassuming. Says, why does this is not hard? So it doesn't feel like he needs to remind you that he's there at all times.
I think that I agree with all of that, but I think that there's an issue with, I think you get a bad rap if you don't have that ability to have people watch a scene of yours and have people go like, oh, that's Kubrick.
Right.
That's Spielberg, you know? And that's not fair because it's awesome to be Hitchcock and it's awesome to have such a style that is that called out, but also you're not the star, the movie's the star. I feel like the director should know that more than anybody. And for you to be able to change genres, you know, like One of my favorite directors is Howard Hawks, and no one would ever be able to pick out a Howard Hawks scene. You know, like the way that or Billy Wilder is probably my favorite. And with Billy Wilder, you can pick out tone. You know, you can pick out how this is sort of like it's laugh out loud funny, but also darkly caustic kind of thing. But it's not where the camera goes like it is with Spielberg and Kubrick.
Yeah.
And I think Lumet has that as well. Watching Serpico, and we talked earlier in the show about, are the cops so bad? Are there so many bad cops that this is borderline farcical? And I don't think it is. And I think that's a failure of the movie. I think that it's somewhere in between realistic and farcical. And what it made me think is that although this is our third Lumet movie, I think that we have done 3 of the top 4, but not his best. And I think that when he finally achieved what he was going through with forward with this movie,
best?
It's Network.
Yeah.
Because with Network, what he was creating a just turn to 11 real world. Everybody says, you know, like Ned Beatty's speech in that movie, it all came true, blah, blah, blah. But really, it's an over-exaggerated world, and it is like the perfect magnifying glass / satire of the real world that Serpico almost is,
like
or
halfway
should stay
is.
away from.
And
you know?
Yeah, and there's the hints like we've talked about throughout his costumes, but it's not just his costumes. It's Rebello, one of his early dirty partners, is wearing just like a 1910s hobo hat. Like a lot of the cops when they're dressing up feels Zucker Brotherian in how out there they are.
Oh, I thought about the Zucker brothers the entire time.
Yes!
I mean, obviously with the Hasidic Jew costume, but like there's so many parts where like people walk into the scene and you're like, this is...
Dude, there's a part where
this is Airplane.
There's a part where he walks in and he's just got like this big cane.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it really honestly like, and yeah, so it feels like he halfway did the reality turned up to 11 and then almost remembered like, well, no, but I want this to be kind of gritty.
Right.
And so then it has like this weight pulling it back down. But
so it's halfway to the satire that he will eventually achieve in Network. And it's also, a lot of these things aren't even aimed for satire. They're aimed for time saving. I want to display so many years and so many events in the shortest amount of time. So I have to cheat. Yeah. And that means a ton of scenes, very short, lots of costume changes, alternating like the ridiculousness of the costumes.
One of the funniest cuts is not costumes, but it's when him and his stony but square-looking, like the other good cop friend, they go to the mayor's assistant, and he's like, we're going right to the mayor. Things are going to change. And then a hard smash cut to, I couldn't be more embarrassed. It's the fucking funniest laugh line.
That's the reporter. The reporter that's like, we're going to bust this wide open. And he's like, you know, summer's not a good time to unveil new news stories. We got too many, like, go into the beach stories
and then
talk about.
It cuts to Serpico or pans over. And this is like the 14th time he's heard it in the last 14 minutes. And he's like, you got to be fucking shitting me.
Is it a little hard to keep track of how this movie is flying through time? And I don't know if this is a Lumet like problem or not, but like you did allude to this, Ryan, that like sometimes there will be 3 scenes in a row and the time in between the scenes is like 2 years.
Right.
And sometimes it's a little dizzying for a 2-hour movie to cover 12 years, right?
Well, I think this is why there could be an argument that this is better, if not more iconic, than Michael Corleone. And that is, there's a lot of this filmmaking that if you were to, in the classic scenario of come downstairs with all the film reels and run into somebody and they all spill and you put them back together and then you play the movie, it still works, right? Like,
yeah.
But it's up to Al Pacino to go from bright-eyed kid to just obsessed psychopath to put all of the scenes in an order, because otherwise there is no order.
And the size of the dog.
It's just the same thing. And the size of the dog.
That really helps.
That's the Lumettiest shit of all. Like, I need something else, right? To show that time has passed. And I wish that at the end, the dog was just like 40 feet tall.
It just Cliffords it.
Yeah, or at the end it said like, and then the dog, grew so big it exploded an apartment.
And I do think in 73, it was probably a little bit more obvious because we look back at it and we're like, okay, is this the 60s or the 70s? But I bet in 73, it was very clear based on the fashions and stuff, like how, or I bet it was more clear how time moved on. I will say, I do really respect his ability, Lumet, to just recede into the background, because I think we've seen so many movies where it feels like the directors are like really waving it in our faces or something. And there are shots in this movie where you could see he potentially could go overboard, like turning one scene into a oneer. But instead, let's organically cut here and here and get like some of the feeling of a oneer by having one long take, but then go into other takes. And I just think there's like almost a certain bravery to just letting the movie breathe and not have to like dominate the audience with your genius.
Well, it's Ryan said earlier, are you the star or is the movie the star? And it made me think of, are you a stand-up director or are you an improv director? Are you there for the group and just the best in general, or are you there because you need to fucking own everything?
You know, where we love Altman, but it's like he doesn't care about the script. He doesn't care about anything else except for like establishing himself as a presence and like
as the third character in every scene.
Yeah, creating the energy that goes into every scene.
And I choose the conversation topic, and I choose when the conversation's over, and all of that shit is true about a director. I just don't need to know about it.
Yes,
and I love Altman, but like. He makes
know.
it so we need to know.
The only type of shot, and it's not Lumet's not the only one who does this, but the only type of shot that when I see it in the movie, I think, oh, that's Lumet, is that like holding something very close in focus while also having something in the background be in focus. Those are the only shots where I ever like noticed him, you know?
Right. Which is, you know, it's still, I mean, like, if you guys, I think Dog Day Afternoon is the most directed movie that we've watched.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because it is just a crescendo of tension for 2 hours. But I do think that this movie gave us the verdict. Like,
yeah,
the verdict is a shorter amount of time. It's not as epic in scale, but this is him learning how to show one man's descent into torment and obsession and like a life not worth living. Like, was this even any of this worth it? I'm old. I'm past my prime. I think that because of Serpico, and I think The Verdict is a far superior movie than Serpico. I think he was able to not give us Paul Newman's youthful lawyer years in The Verdict and just showed us the important part of the story, you know?
Yeah.
Speed round. Is this the most 1973 movie of all time? Mike?
I think New York is so...
Ryan?
1973? Sorry.
Yeah, New York
Mike?
is... New York... Even now in modern things, the mid-2000s Daredevil TV show made New York once again feel like the 70s. Like, this, when people think of New York, it's always the 70s. Because that was so
The Joker
iconic.
movie?
Yes.
It really is. Ryan, what were you saying?
Yeah, I just, like, the way... everything about it. Like... You know, we're going to watch every movie that we're going to watch. We're going to be like, this feels a little late 60s. This feels a little late 70s. This is so fucking disgustingly 73.
It has that shambolic feeling, which to me is very 1973.
Yeah. I will say the one way in which it is a step away from being the perfect 73 movie to me is the score is very like Italian kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
If it had more waka chakas, I think that this would have been the most 73 movie of all time. But the score was like more of like a classic, like you expected. Like the score sounded like the music that Serpico's mom would listen to while she made him a delicious pasta sauce.
I got hints of this the first time I watched it. The second time I watched it, I would rather have Greg saying Waka Chaka throughout this movie than listen to a second of this music. This is
the score sucks.
It starts loud and annoying, yes.
Yes,
but like
it's so much mandolin.
There's no way that the composer watched the movie. There's no way that the composer had ever composed music for a movie before. There's no way that the composer had composed music, period, before. Like, I cannot believe this is the worst I've ever seen.
And the feeling is way off. Like, I agree wholeheartedly with the idea that this person never saw the movie. And, like, to have this guy walking around looking like the 60s becoming the 70s, and then all the music is, like, totally discordant to that. It doesn't feel like there's no, like a diegetic? There's, like, no environmental music in this either. And there's even a party, and the party, like, doesn't have any, like, really interesting music.
And for there to be no part where, like, he opens the door and it's like, Serpico! And there's, as far as sound in general goes, there's some 73 as fuck shit. Like, when he throws that one fucking guy, like, he arrests a guy and the cops take him up and they're all hanging out with him.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
sorry about Serpico. And Serpico comes up, throws him against the wall, pulls his pants and underwear down, and then throws him into the jail cell. And when he throws him into the jail cell, it's the most cartoon bowling ball into bowling pits. And there's a lot of 73-ishness like that, but that's just, I sort of accept that with the times. I don't accept shitty scores. Like I've never written a score before.
What the music made me think, and rewatching especially the beginning, and if you didn't know Serpico was a real guy, that he is dead when he gets shot in the face, and all of this is him remembering. Yeah. So that is his mom's kitchen music, and it's filtering through, and he's dying. And they're like him years later at the board being like, and things will change. Or at his last breath being like, and I really changed it.
Mike.
And then at the board when he's talking to everybody, he hits play on a tape recorder, and it's the music from this movie.
Yes.
So.
And he holds it up above his head. Frank and Bob get the idea to take down the police force because they are high as fuck. Should more cops be high as fuck, Ryan?
I think so. I think that most cops should do. What's the amount of heroin where you just die?
Fentanyl.
Are we allowed to say that?
It's the amount of heroin is fentanyl.
Oh, no. Cops are so allergic to fentanyl, guys. It's
if they hear you
crazy.
say it, they run away.
Isn't that what's really happening, though? Isn't it that the cops are high all the time, and that when they bust people for drugs, they take the drugs, and then when they don't expect there to be fentanyl in them? And
they take money, but they don't take drugs. No, not the cops.
I think cops already are high as fuck all the time.
What if they never spend the money? They just take the money to roll it up so they can do the drugs.
I've heard that the cops don't even touch their heist money that they steal. They just
they put it in a big locker. They're like, you know what? We're just going to impound this money. We're going to look after it. The money will be here if anybody needs it, and we don't have to do anything to account for it. So that is 2 votes for yes. The cops should be high as fuck.
But they should be stoned. Less aggressive drugs, more weed drugs.
I think all cops should do a line of fentanyl and then go on that Boston slide and fucking get wrecked.
Oh man. I could watch that guy slide. Man, that is our generation Serpico for sure.
No idea, but I love it.
We've talked about this a little bit. How funny is the movie supposed to be? And how funny is the guy supposed to be?
Well, to take the first part, is Lumet tickled by Serpico? Does Lumet admire Serpico, or is he like kind of like, look at this guy?
Both. I think he feels like this is someone who's never going to fit in. He's a big weirdo, right? Mm-hmm. And I think Lumet feels that, and then also feels how he is like heroic and how that makes him like the Miles Morales of this movie. What makes him stick out is what makes him good. And so I think he is trying to bring out both of those things.
I think Serpico is supposed to be funny, but I was laughing my ass off throughout this movie, like loud guffaws, and I don't know if that's Lumet's intention. Like, I mean,
anytime he just walks into the precinct, whether he is dressed as himself or as one of his undercover things, it is like so bonkers every time. You can't help but laugh. And then clearly the character, they are trying to show that like he uses humor to disarm and that it works with hot women, but it doesn't work with hyper-masculine
And he
men.
doesn't care. He's going to be like, I'm going to stick with the hot women thing.
Yeah, right, because then he only has to hang out with hot women instead of ever having to hang out with these terrible boneheaded dudes.
If you can disarm dudes and like then they like you, then you have to fucking hang out with those dudes and they're awful.
Ew.
Ugh. And then you're not even allowed to suck each other's dicks.
I mean, you're allowed to.
Does Serpico fall into the trap a lot of cop movies do? Sure, there are a lot of bad ones, but in the end, most cops are good.
I honestly think that like I go against Pauline Kael as I always do because as brilliant as she was from a different time, and I love her because she thinks her thing and then fucking runs with it, whether it's
and
wrong
leans
or
on
not.
it, right?
Yeah,
like
just like goes with it all the way to a touchdown.
I'm gonna be wrong or right hard,
but I think that's part of Lumet's whole almost network thing is literally none.
Right.
Yeah, right.
No good cops.
I mean,
ACAB.
And then if there were a cop who was going to be good, that cop is purposely trying not to know what's going on. Like the higher ups are like, you do the investigation and just let us know because they know that they can't know.
It'd be a cop with like glasses and buck teeth with a red shirt. And he's like, I don't know why they gave me a red uniform, and then just exploded immediately.
We don't even have lasers yet. Leave me alone. Well, when we
he told the bad guys, leave me alone.
Leave me alone. And then you have to. As a bad guy, you have to. Like,
said the magic phrase.
Going back to base. When we come back, let's give this movie some awards. Awards. Is there anything better? Yes. Recommendations are better than awards. This movie was nominated for 2 Oscars, but didn't win any. And it only won, like, kind of shitty awards. I don't know. There's so many. When you really start scrolling through the awards, there's like a lot of awards every year, and some of them you would like almost just as soon not win.
Yeah.
You know, because it means like you didn't get an Oscar.
It's the one where it's like on the poster it says Academy Award winner, and then there's a tiny asterisk, and then way down below it says
The Friend.
neighbor of.
All right, so that it will not escape my tiny little brain, though. Let's start with recommendations. What do we recommend if somebody liked or even didn't like Serpico, Mike?
There are two movies that kept running through my head while I was watching this for very different reasons. One is the harkening back to an older time and like the cop who's going against everybody else. I cannot get Kevin Costner and the Untouchables.
Oh, hell yeah.
Out
I
of my
like that
brain.
one.
A Brian De Palma movie?
A
A Brian
De
De
Palma
Palma
movie.
even. It just there's something about like the righteousness and the doggedness and like I don't
Yes.
care who's telling me this isn't the way to go.
And it's funny, they say in this when they're going to like bust the dirty cops, they're like, maybe go to the new police academy
Yeah.
and get some fresh recruits who haven't been corrupt yet. And that's exactly what the Untouchables are.
And the whole time I was like, I thought of Andy Garcia because he will always make me think of Al Pacino. The other movie that made me think of it, 2013, 2014, Woody Harrelson's Rampart, which is about the Rampart police office in L.A., who are the ones who, I believe, beat up Rodney King. And it's just what a piece of fucking shit this guy is. But we hone in on the piece of garbage cop, not the one who's sort of trying to fight it.
I thought about Rampart, but I have better picks. But I know people who worked in Rampart, and that literally was what we're talking about. Like, just corrupt on, like, from Maine. Like, on first base, you are corrupt as fuck.
All right, great recommendations, Mike. There's two of them, so
Ryan.
that's obviously going to be a point for Ryan because it's recommendation.
Oh, I'm going to cut one of mine.
Yeah.
I thought it was recommendations. You said sons.
Actually, it does say Rex here.
Mike.
Ryan.
I've got two then?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay.
Tread lightly.
So I'm going to take it from the other side of Serpico and not do the fun side of police corruption, but just like maybe see why
That's what this movie is. It's like having a little fun with police corruption.
Ryan.
Sort of maybe explain why people do it. The first one, and I love these two things so much, even though they're fucking awful to watch. One is Werner Herzog making a sequel to an early 90s movie with Nicolas Cage called Bad Lieutenant,
Oh, yeah.
Port of Call, New Orleans. This is Nicolas Cage just being the single worst cop ever. Power play, I guess. Like, he wants to feel powerful, but just because it's fun. Just because, like, why not, right? I'm Nicolas Cage, you're Werner Herzog. Just what a fucking crazy fucked up movie. The other one is We Built This City. We built this city on rock and roll. And this is when John Barenthal, this is the Wire creators.
Oh, yeah.
And it starts off with young John Barenthal Serpico, or Reverse Serpico. Reversico. He can't afford like crabs at a barbecue or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, they have money. How do I get money? And then just becomes, you watch him be the biggest piece of shit. Like, it was hard to watch. It's like, I can't be around dudes like this. And then John Barenthal is just there.
Yeah.
It affects his future performances. Like that older Bear brother on the Bear.
Yes.
Like, I can't watch him anymore.
Yeah, he becomes the most corrupt cop, and it's the same thing. You see him from Fresh Faced. I'm going to go with my recommendation is a episode of the podcast This American Life. It's episode 414, and it's the second segment. And it's about, in 2008, a cop who's like, they're like, welcome to the station. Here's how many tickets you have to write. And he's like, no, but you can't tell us to do that. We can't have a quota. And they're like, okay. And it's not taking money, but it is going out and like taxing the local civilians. And he is just like Serpico in that he's like, I don't want to do this. I want to police in such a way where we involve the community. And they try to get him committed. But he, unlike Serpico, he does record them a lot. And there's even a clip they play where they find the recorder and they're like, are you fucking recording us right now? And it is shocking that they didn't kill this guy. He gets, spoiler alert, he's alive. But it is a fascinating episode of a podcast. And it's an indication that like things didn't really get any better. And I mean, you can just like Google police corruption and probably find out that that's not the case.
I love the integrity and the manliness of the 1973 New York Police Department that they're not going to like put a hit on Serpico, right? But like this is what they're talking about.
They let him run into a building and then just stand there.
Yeah.
When you call, like when you're in trouble, that's supposed to be the thing that gets cops there the fastest, right? And then they just won't come. Or in this case, Salieri, fucking F. Murray Abraham, and the other guy just lets him go in, and they just stand there. And like this doesn't count as killing him.
They are 3 feet away, and he can look them in the eyes and go, "Why aren't you helping
Oh my
me?
God.
Do you see what's happening?
I'm trapped
right
in
now?
the.
My arm is stuck and it hurts."
How scary! He's trapped in that door, and they're just like looking at him, and then he gets shot in the face. And thank God they used like such a tiny gun that it.
I don't think they even make those kinds of guns anymore.
That like put a very small hole in his
it was
face.
a Cheerio size hole in his head.
All right, so those are our recommendations. Let's get to the awards. Pound for pound performance. Ryan, who do you think is our P for P?
Well, Greg, I have self-imposed rules here.
Yes.
So I'm going with Anna Hill Johnstone, the costume designer. I think that what she did, and she has done multiple Al Pacino movies. I think she did The Godfather. What she did in this movie of like, I feel like every day they were like, she was like, "You want me to do what?"
Gonna go bigger.
And she did it. I feel like
They told her go big or go home.
and she refused to go home.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not going home.
So at a certain point, she was just making giant Al Pacino costumes.
That's an intriguing argument, Mike. Who do you got?
I don't have the same self-imposed rules. I
Nice.
try to not always do the obvious one, but
Nice.
sometimes come the fuck on. If you are in our generation and are constantly like, "Why is hoo-hah Duncan Chino such a lauded actor?" It's this stuff, man. It is Godfather Dog Day in this movie. He is great. And this is when he can turn that volume up and still be a good actor, not be
Yes.
a fucking joke.
Greg, hypothetically, if you were to run a D&D campaign,
Yes.
and if Mike was in that and his character recently died, would you be ready for
Oh,
a character
man.
named hoo-hah Duncan Chino?
Pal Cicino. I love
It's
it.
coming.
Mike.
And Mike, I gotta go.
He's a Kender.
I gotta go with that. I love your argument, Ryan, but this is probably the perfect Pacino piece. Director's signature. Now, we were just talking that Lumet kind of blends into the background, but Mike, what do you have as his signature for this movie?
Probably because the last one we watched by him was Dog Day. The tension building is what was stuck in my head, and the intro of the most annoying, loud, high-pitched noises
Awful
between
siren.
police siren and phone ringing, flashing between people talking about what's happening and who got killed and seeing his tiny Cheerio-sized hole bleeding. All of that felt very now to me.
The opening. So
It reminded me of the drive to the airport at the end of Dog Day.
Did you start it late at night and you had to like keep turning everything
Yes.
down?
Yes, and then I'm like, I can't hear.
Yeah,
I can't hear. And I'm like,
it was so loud. They got your attention right off the bat. Well, I love that. Ryan, what do you have as the signature?
I think that the signature Sidney Lumet moment in all movies is the 12 Angry Men thing, where the first third of the movie is we shoot it from up, so it looks like a big room, and then we keep moving the camera down, so it seems like the room
gets
is
smaller
shrinking.
and smaller.
And I think that's what they did. Al Pacino is not a tall man, but I do feel like that he took every advantage of making Al Pacino looking as small as possible throughout the movie. There's some times where he's thrown against the locker, and like even if he was wearing heels or like something that exaggerated his height, he was still so tiny. There, when Kid Erie and the gang pull him into the park, Sidney Lumet puts the camera on their faces, and like he always seems like the tiny, like the 6th grader in an 8th grade gangbang. You know, like he's always so small.
hate that analogy.
I don't love that last part, so I'm gonna give the point. But yeah, small and alone. He's constantly shown at those things. Yeah, that park scene is perfect.
He rarely has a friend with anybody else in the room.
Yeah,
Like really, the only time is when he is with Tony Roberts and that guy who's like worried about his family.
yeah.
And that's the only time where like it's a threesome. Otherwise, it's him and a friend alone, or a ton of guys against him, and he is very, very small.
And you can see the character's history there. Like that's been him his whole life.
Right.
That's why he's weird.
And that's we were talking about his casting choices and the scripts that he picks, and I do think that he often will pick characters that do seem taller than they actually are. You know, Michael Corleone literally seems to grow in front of your eyes, like grow inches.
Yeah.
And this one is the smallest person he can be.
Wow, I love that. Cringe. It's a movie from 1973, Ryan. I'm assuming you were cringing.
I did the thing, like, this sort of goes back to, John Hamm theory or Don Draper theory about how we prove that he's not a racist at all in the first episode as soon as possible. And we do that so much with Serpico. He loves black people. He loves women. He's not racist at all. But if you call him an F-slur, he will be like, what the fuck did you say to me? And that scene that we talked about earlier really caught me off guard.
That he is like so offended by that or so worried about that.
How even dare you?
Yeah. All right, pretty good. Mike, what do you got?
Mine is actually right before that because it just didn't jive with the rest of the character. Not that I was like, oh, he's doing something bad, but he does try to peep.
Yeah.
The cop is like, he's like, oh, I'm done peeing. Now I will try to look at the person fucking.
Yeah.
And the shades are pulled down.
I have to say, I think those are two versions of the same answer, to be honest. I think that's like some performative heterosexuality on his part. You know, like, I mean, and I think the character's straight, or it doesn't really matter that much, but he obviously sees a need to be like performatively and enthusiastically straight towards other men.
Also, the initial peeper is like, God damn it, Serpico. Not only will you not be on the take and ruin the entire police corps, but you put a fucking binoculars in your hand and she goes to bed. Like, you're the biggest jinx. Like, those are all equal in my heart right now.
That's when Top Gun Back to the Future comes in, and that's when he delivers his famous I found underwear. And just to circle back around, would you know if you found underwear if there was a semen stain on it?
By smell and taste,
test.
You know what?
Mike, Ryan.
You both deserve it. And Ryan, I'm going to go with yours as the cringe moment. I do think the audience wants advocacy there, and instead we get like, you know, how can you accuse me of this unthinkable thing or something like that?
I mean, how much different would the movie have been? And like certain audiences would have looked at the movie if he was like, no, why?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not, but why?
Yeah.
Which is how he reacts to like everything else.
Right.
For a while.
All right. The next award is a Serpico special, and it's called, and I find this very pleasing, Serpiclothes. In a movie full of costume changes, what is the best piece of Serpiclothes, Mike?
There are so many good ones.
So many. This is
Lampshade
very tough.
But the one that like just tickled me the most is his like pirate / Peter Pan outfit when he has a big billowy green shirt, like a leather vest on top of it, and he has a goatee even, and it just looks like Serpico watched Errol Morris's Robin Hood.
This is one of two Robin Hood outfits he wears, because there's also, we're going to talk about 1973, the animated Robin Hood. I swear there is a scene where Serpico dresses just like Robin Hood dresses when Robin Hood is pretending to be a blind.
The dark glasses and the
hood.
Yes.
Serpico dresses like that for one scene, and it kind of alludes to it in a couple of other scenes.
Alms for the poor.
He's very Robin Hood energy. Ryan, what do you got?
I want to do the Robin Hood so bad. And plus, like, at this point, he has the devil beard. Like, it's sort of shaped into a thing. Like,
the Van Dyke.
Do you remember Eric Balfour, Mike?
I remember the name.
From the OC. He was Teresa's.
He was Jesse in the first few episodes of Buffy, yes.
And
he was
just has like this sort of like devil bearded face.
He looks like the devil.
He looks like the devil.
He looks like the devil.
But no, I have to go with the rabbi because that's, at that point you're like, what the fuck is this fucking
what
movie?
am I watching here? Like, what's going on? I don't quite understand.
Because, I mean, at that point, like, if he came in to the precinct and just took a smoochy head off, and he was like, death to me? I don't know. And then, like, it's a living.
It is a living. But yeah, it has to be that rabbi outfit. And they're like, they want to yell at him about something, so he gets like chewed out looking like that. This movie, again, we are spoiled for choice on this next one. There are many bad cops. But Ryan, who is our worst cop?
I want to sort of applaud the movie of like not having one, like, they're
one
all,
type of bad cop.
They're all so bad that like there isn't like one super villainous one. Except for one absolute psychopath. And that is, I believe his name is, I just saw a black guy. I'm going to floor it in reverse, and I'm going to possibly kill everyone behind me.
This guy has Reese from Malcolm in the Middle energy, but he's an adult man in a pork pie hat. It is so terrifying.
Which of those two things are worse?
Dude, they're all bad. But yeah, he like, when he realizes the chase is on and the way he laughs, that's so fucking creepy.
Because
this is a sociopath.
Unhinged. We are supposed to be like, Serpico, where'd you get all your integrity, man? Like, just be on the take. Like,
Did you steal it from a perp?
why don't you trust these cops? And then he sits in the car with a cop like this, and he's like, oh no, I get it. Yeah, maybe don't be like these cops.
Why did you want to
is-
be a cop in the first place?
That's a good question. Be a teacher.
Is this the department that is clean as a houndstooth? That he's like, this is the one I was told is good.
Mike, what do you say? Who's the worst cop?
There's so many bad ones, like we said. The one that I think sticks with me, the more I thought about it, is the overly annoyingly Catholic biblical guy who
Yes.
keeps saying have patience,
Mike
who
Pence
pretends
cop.
he's good and is helping.
Fucking Mike Pence cop. Oh my God.
Hey, remember what God said? Do nothing ever, I guess.
Is that the guy with the fly in his hair the entire time?
That's this guy. Obviously, he doesn't care if you're a good or a bad cop. He just wants to know if you're Catholic, and that is like
Yes.
such a great detail.
And ultimately, it's the commissioner, right? Who could make changes,
Yeah.
but
But who I get intentionally doesn't know what's
Refuses to.
going on.
Yeah.
and
What? Who? Huh?
and just wants to run interference. All right, we are going to take what one panelist has called the quickest of breaks, and when we come back, we'll tell you who won this episode and whether or not we think Serpico has what it takes to win our 1973 Movie of the Year.
Skadoosh.
A skadoosh. You know, anytime you hear skadoosh, that means I'm about to tell you the score. Mike, you got 42 points. Ryan, you got 40 points. Mike,
What?
congratulations. The winner of the Serpico show. But the question is...
how much was in that envelope there, Mike?
I
that you gave
never
to Greg?
touched one. I have integrity. It's clearly that I'm the most Serpico-like,
yeah, you are...
I would actually agree with that.
both in my
Integrity.
flamboyance and my integrity.
Yeah, and in your attraction to the ladies of New York. We never totally got into it, but I feel like we all had this same opinion, which is that this movie is fine to good, but do we think it has any chance to be the movie of the year?
Do you know what, Greg? Thanks for asking. We talked about Scarface.
We
in
did.
the Al Pacino thing, and to say that this movie is overrated compared to Scarface. Scarface is a terrible movie. This movie is
For bad people.
This movie, for bad, like if you
Yeah.
have a poster on the wall, you probably
Oh, you're the worst.
Yeah, you're probably gonna die of long COVID. But
And pay attention when they have those consent seminars.
I think that this is a great movie. I don't think this deserves to be in the conversation with, let's say, The Two Godfathers, Dog Day Afternoon, Network,
Yeah.
etc.
But great. Not just good, but great.
Yeah,
I'll concur.
No.
I do think it. I think it is.
I don't
great.
think I will concur.
I think it.
I don't know if it's great.
I think it just pushes above good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's definitely far from bad.
I call
It's
this
more than okay.
3.5. If we're rocking our 4-star scale, I put this at 3.5. I think this movie is endlessly entertaining. It is so good
Yeah.
to watch and
Yeah.
rewatchable for sure. And he's doing so much. Lumet is doing so much quietly. All of it, all the things we said. It's messy though. And so that keeps, but I think the mess is part of the watch. The whole time that I was like, is this a comedy? I don't care. I still love what is
Yeah.
happening right now. But I keep purposely forgetting what we're going to watch. But right now,
Yes.
this is the best movie we've watched.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's certainly the best movie we've watched so far.
Just to break down, I don't know how we watch stuff, and like I'll nitpick with Mike, and I'll be like 3.25
Yeah.
to his 3.5, which really doesn't matter. But it's so much about expectations. I've heard that Serpico was one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
It's not. I've heard that Sisters was not a movie that I've ever heard of, and it was great.
And it was.
So, and so like, it is weird how those two things come
Sure.
into play. I don't know if I would pick out of those two, which I would pick, just because one was wilder than the other.
Yeah, I think it's delivering in so many ways, and then I just think it is a scotch below great. I think it is a good movie. It's very fun. It's very entertaining.
So are we
are
0 for
not
4 then?
left with a ton of questions. We're not left like trying to construct things, our own understanding of this. It's pretty much delivered to us. I think we get it. But I look forward to watching it again. I would recommend it to anybody. I just don't think it's gonna. I don't even think it has a puncher's chance of being 73's movie of the year.
I think that the reason that it stays in the conversation is that because of more than Westworld, more than Sisters. Is there another one?
The Sting.
The Sting.
Sting.
Definitely more than The Sting. We were transported to 1973.
Goddamn, is it
This
1973?
This is a time machine into so many things with Watergate, with how movies were made. Like this is how movies looked. The average movie looked like this. And The Sting was trying not to.
Right.
You know, The Sting was trying to look like a 1980s movie and a 1930s movie all at the same time.
And then sound like a 1910s movie.
And yeah, for some reason, but let's get 1910s music. But I will say, it's still a better score than the fucking
Yes.
Well,
Serpico.
Hell yeah.
The Sting score rules.
Ryan.
That's my new fuck jam.
Is the ice cream man here? It's sex time.
I'm the entertainer now, baby.
Just rub the
But yeah,
nips.
like I think it is overrated. I think it's too highly thought of. It is not Scarface. It is so much better than that.
Yeah. Well, that is our Serpico show. We will talk about it at the end of the season, but until then, there's going to be a bunch of other movies that we're talking about. But hey, in between now and then, do me a favor, will you? Keep watching them movies.
Wait, I don't know why I clapped, but I felt like I had to, so you know when I'm done.